Like any smart, down-to-earth person, Donald Trump has been bragging about acing a simple cognitive test that he recently took. He's been doing it for a while now, but it wasn't until his interview with Fox News' Chris Wallace on Sunday that he was challenged over it. As the fake president started boasting about his results, Wallace laughed. Wallace said that he took the test too he's like, when I heard that you had passed it, the Fox News host told Trump, it's not the hardest test. They have a picture and it says, what's that? And it's an elephant, according to what Trump said. This is according to Trump. According to Trump, was a misrepresentation. Yes, the first few questions are easy, he conceded, but I bet you couldn't even answer the last 5 questions. I bet you couldn't. They'll get very hard. And the last 5 questions he added, I guarantee you that Joe Biden could not answer those questions. I'm pretty sure he could. So what is this test? So what is the test, and what are the last 5 questions, as Trump claims that are really so difficult? The test is called the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, also known as MoCA, and was created by the neurologist Dr. Zayed Nasreddin in 1996. Talking to Market Watch on Monday, Nasreddin stressed that the test is supposed to be easy for someone who has no cognitive impairment, stressing that this is not an IQ test or the level of how a person is extremely skilled or not. This test is supposed to help physicians detect if any person is in the early signs of Alzheimer's. There are very few different versions of the test with small variations, such as the words to remember or animals to name, but the questions are generally the same. We can't tell for sure which version that Trump took, but as he said, he did it recently. He says, I've taken the latest MoCA test from their website. Trump is right about the start of the test being easy, but when it comes to the last 5 questions, which he claims are very, very hard and very unsettling, although not surprising in what it reveals about his relationship with reality. But before we dive into that, here's what the test will actually involve. Drawing a clock and a cube. That's technically one of the things they'll have you do. The very first few questions are indeed easy, although it does go without saying that anyone experiencing cognitive problems is supposed to find it hard, and the point of the test is to help diagnose their condition. First, they have you draw a line between numbers between numbers and their equivalent letters. Like you take a line starting from the number 1 to the letter A, and then the letter A to number 2, and then 2 to B, and then so on and so on. Then you have to draw like a cube-like thing, and a clock at 10 past 11. Call it what you will, millennial-itis, lockdown brain, but this was actually a slight challenge, as I can't remember the last time I looked at a clock that wasn't on my phone or laptop. So yes, it took me a second to remember that the minutes are all multiples of 5. For 10 past the big hand points to 2, but I figured it out in the end, and that's all that matters. But the question about the elephant, if you're lucky enough to not have any cognitive impairment, this part is also easy. There are 3 drawings: a picture of a lion, a rhino, and a camel. As mentioned, there are a few versions of the test with very minor differences. For example, the test Fox News showed during the interview had an elephant on it, and you can see it here if you click on the picture, but I'm not going to. But the latest test has a rhino instead. This has led some of Trump's critics to basically claim that he can't tell the difference between the two. Both of these sections are very simple and involve repeating a series of numbers forwards and backwards and remembering a string of 5 random words that, in the final part, which Chris Wallace mentioned, asks you to count back from 100 in multiples of 7, like going from 1, so you'd start with 100, then count down to 93, then 86, and so on and so on. Just like the clock, this took me slightly longer than I would have liked, but nowhere does it say that this is a timed test. I did it in the end, and slowly but surely. This is where things are going to get a little concerning and dicey. If you remember, Trump bet Wallace that he couldn't even answer the last 5 questions of the test, but for a mentally healthy person, the last 5 questions should be as simple as the beginning of the rest. The fifth to last question on the test asks you to repeat a sentence out loud before naming as many words as you can, starting with the letter F. In the following abstraction section, you have to spot the similarity between different objects such as trains and bicycles and modes of transportation, or water and a ruler measuring devices. Next, you have to recall the random words that were included in the earlier memory section. This may be the part that's easiest to trip over. And finally, for the orientation part of the test, you have to say what the date is. For Trump to claim that these are hard is worrying, because for any cognitively healthy person, they shouldn't be. But before we start any armchair diagnosis, you have to weigh up the 2 probabilities against each other. Is it really likely that he found the last 5 questions to be hard? Or is it more than likely that he's misrepresenting about how hard they were in order to look smarter than Biden? In the same interview, Trump got his team to pass him a chart that he said showed the U.S. had one of the lowest morality rates in the world. when it didn't do anything of the sort. This is shocking but not surprising. Trump has now made more than 20,000 lies. Has told more than 20,000 lies since he took office. So it seems more than likely that Trump's difficulties at the end of the test tell us nothing that we don't know already. His prolific lying and self-aggrandizement, two things we have empirical evidence for, should be what worries us the most. For similar to his stable genius claims, you got to ask yourself, how many smart people brag about their supposed intellect so much and then such a misguided way? We know Trump isn't smart, he's a fucking moron. But, and so if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, and then also hit the notification bell so that you'll be informed of anything new. And I'll see you then.